And I understand she has a website, Facebook, blog. She's a singer, a talented and skillful African-American woman. Sister Red Velvet, tell us a little bit about yourself, sister.
First of all, I'm not an African-American.
Okay, very good.
I was not born in Africa. I'm not an African living in America, nor am I an American living in Africa.
Okay.
I am an American Negro.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Because in order for me to say that I'm an African-American, I would have to deny my German, my Native American, and my French heritage, and all of those make me.
Okay. You make me think about something. When we have a discussion, been in many discussions about race and human beings and all that, I do find that all people, I won't call them mutts, but they are mixed up with a little bit of every race, Irish, German, and that sort of thing. But that's a subject for another time. I don't want to get off my theme, but that is a subject that we can undertake, and I've understood the consensus agreement. There has been a consensus agreement, and I've gone along with the consensus agreement.
That race
Now,
is a false construct?
Oh, race is it's false. It's made up to control the mass of the people.
So we're going to stick a pin in that till another time.
Until another time.
All
you,
right.
You just come on back next Sunday, and the Sunday after that. Trust me, we will talk with you. Yes, we will.
Okay.
Now, in talking with you yesterday, the question came to my mind to ask you about free people. How do free people think?
The first thing is that free people think. Free people actually think. They do not readily accept what is fed to them. Free people question what is given to them. And if they have doubts, they try to find something to either factually substantiate what they are given, or they find some fact or truth to dissolve that.
Okay.
Just because somebody questions something does not necessarily mean that they think it is wrong.
Okay.
Sometimes the quest to find truth will cause you to research more than it will for you to disprove. You can just about raise any one question or raise any one fact to refute something that you've been told. But when a person is on a quest for truth, they will dig a whole lot deeper sometimes to prove what they want to believe to be right than they will when they're just trying to dismiss it. So
Okay.
the first attribute of free people is that they think,
Okay.
that they do think.
Mm-hmm. And you said something interesting, critical thinking, digging deeper. Just one quick question. I want to go to Talut. And these elements of humans you're talking about, when they find something contrary to what they've been taught, does that automatically make it true? Talut, go ahead.
Well, the point is, and I agree with Red Velvet in everything she just spoke to us about. But free people are non-conforming. And non-conformity is good. What our problem is, we are conforming people. Exactly today as we were when we were in elementary school, going along with the program. Can't do this, you can't do that, and don't do this, and don't do that. And we take that attitude into our adult lifehood. So what you have is an entire people, 40 million people conforming to what someone else established for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a habit or an idea that we're going to have to break. We're going to have to become free-thinking people.
Okay. Is it true? What is you guys' position on the public school system in terms of having been created to Americanize people, especially African Americans, or to train them to work for those individuals who are in those positions of economic enterprise, if you will? Either one, you take it, Ms. Velvet.
I want you to imagine that I came into the village or the area where you live. I took everyone there that did not look like me. I took them out of their natural habitat. I stripped them of their culture. I strip them of their identity. I deliberately dehumanize them. And then only by legislation do they become free and enjoy, or they get a sense of freedom or a pseudo-freedom. Only by legislation are they given a pseudo-integration. And I want to know, would you trust me to educate your child to know who he is?
Well,
Would you trust me to do that?
well, automatically, I'm a critical thinker.
No, would you trust me to have dehumanized you? Would you trust me to be the one to educate your child, to truly educate your child?
Oh, absolutely not. Because
Okay.
this is why I do these shows.
Okay.
This is why I raise these questions.
You wouldn't
This
do
is
that.
why. No, this is why. No, I'm the one who is pointing,
Okay.
guiding, and questioning. So come on, Brother Talut.
Well, I would say the question is non-personal. I think the question is just
The question
general.
I'm asking is
You know,
that
it's
you
sort of
have
like-
people who, the point that I was making in asking the question is, people from Africa and other places where the African diaspora live were brought to this country as slaves or prisoners, as some people say. They were dehumanized, they were treated as property, no more than animals. Only by law and legislation were they given a pseudo-freedom. Only 100 years after their pseudo-emancipation were they allowed pseudo-integration. So how is it that a people who have been historically disfranchised all of a sudden going to believe that the very same powers that be, not necessarily white people, but the same powers that be are going to educate your children, emancipate their minds?
Yes.
Well,
They're not.
But see, my
They're
question
not.
is, my point
Go
is
ahead,
this.
Talut.
My point is the question is posed to 40 million people. It's not, and posing that question to 40 million people clearly indicate that we as a people have gone wrong in thinking that these oppressors can actually or would actually educate our children properly. And the other point of the matter is, or let me back up, the answer to the question is no. So therefore what you have is a group of people who are taught a behavior, are taught an attitude to take into helping the rich become richer, of which in turn they become poor. So the
Absolutely.
education is not working for us.
It's not
It
okay.
never has and it never will.
Let me jump in here. Totally agree with you that it's not personalized and it should not be personalized. It should be general, from general to specifics. Now, here's my question. Even though these things have happened, is it a reason or is it an excuse to not move to solve the problem? I mean, do we say that this is what has happened to a particular people and this is where we are? Do leaders, forward-thinking people?
You don't
Let me
have
finish my
any
question.
black leaders.
Let me finish my question. Now, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that because I think we've had leadership discussions on this show on many occasions, and I will definitely say that we said it wasn't personal, didn't we?
Right.
But somehow or another, in my disagreement with her, I've got to establish the fact that I set an example, I pose questions, and I represent leadership. I do. Now, she just said we don't have any leaders. Now, that's my position, that I am, in fact, a leader, and I represent leadership. So, my question is, what do we do in spite of, and both of you go first, Red Bell, in spite of all these atrocities that have happened to African Americans, that's my position, what do we do? Do we say, oh, this has happened, so therefore we shouldn't expect, not the oppressor, because you just said, the oppressor enslaved these people, this group of people, to further enrich them. So the people who are being downtrodden upon, oppressed, made poorer and poorer, whose responsibility is it to come out of poverty, ignorance, poor medical conditions, and etc.? You want to take it first, Phil? And then you go, Talut.
Van Morrison and a musician by the last name of Morrison may not have been Van Morrison, but something that he said made an indelible impression upon me when I was introduced to his music. He said that there can be no revolution until there is an internal evolution. You cannot expect a group of people who have been miseducated to believe that there is some group of people that is going to lead them to some promised land. Nobody is responsible for me as an adult except me. And what happens especially, and I'm going to talk about people of color because I happen to live and matriculate within the community, and if I were going to be defined by lesser enlightened people, they would define me or confine me to a black race.
Okay.
The first problem that people of color have in obtaining or getting to the internal evolution that would create a collective revolution is that they do not know the difference between a black leader and a leading black. There's a big difference between a black leader and a leading black. Most of the people that you see in prominence are not necessarily a black leader. Most of the people that you do see every now and then who are not seeking the limelight may very well be the most powerful and prominent leader in their life. Someone who's on TV all the time leading the march, they may not necessarily be a black leader.
Well, one quick point. The problem with that theory of belief, there's a serious problem with the theory of belief. When we say believe, there's a serious flaw. There's a difference between believing something that fits in the category which you was talking about in terms of what people have been told and have not examined and analyzed and that kind of thing. There's a difference between believing and knowing. It's more scientific. And when you fall into that belief category, no wonder you walked off the bridge and fell and broke your doggone neck. Talut.
Yes. What comes to my mind is something that Frederick Douglass said. And he said, do not judge the Negro by the standard of a white man, but judge him from which he comes. In other words, and I think what he was alluding to or stating is that look at us today from where we come from. Use that as the standard. Leave the white man out of it. Keep him away from the idea altogether. Now, if you're thinking about 40 million people, see, sometimes we have to train our minds to think in terms of 40 million people. Okay? So I think what Red Velvet was saying when she said that we don't have any black leaders, she may have been looking at 40 million people. May have. So I'm thinking that I can agree with her. Because if we have had black leaders, would our condition be as it is today? No. I would say no. Okay, now we have to be critical about it.
Yeah. Okay,
we have to look at it from a scientific point of view also. And from an ethological standpoint or any other ology standpoint, which is the science of these things, okay, we can look at our evolution and compare it to cavemen. And we would not have achieved as much as they have because we've not made a tool yet, so to speak. Okay, we don't have a tool for trade and commerce or economic development or academia. We don't have a tool for any of that for ourselves.
Well,
now we do that for other people, but we don't do it for ourselves.
Yeah, because we've been indoctrinated and brainwashed. Just one quick comment, and then I want to go to Red Velvet. I think to say that we've not had leaders or leadership is cutting the theory short, because when you think about many African Americans, we can see quite a few. When you think about the Benjamin Bannekers of the world, we've perhaps not made the progress as a group that we should have, but to say that we've not had Benjamin Bannekers or David Walkers or Dr. King or Malcolm X or even Farrakhan, some of the recent ones, the biggest problem lies within how difficult it is to get into the minds of the larger group of the 40 million Americans that you were talking about, Rick. So I'm going to have to disagree with you guys on that particular point. Go ahead, Ms. Velvet.
I find it very interesting. I mean, I see it as a form of idolatry. And I'm not saying that I grew up in any superior situation than anybody else. grew up in a middle class family in rural Alabama in the Deep South. And as soon as that is mentioned, some people form their opinions or they form their prejudices, and that's fine. What I was taught is that for me to look to anybody to save me or free me without some effort on my own is not only foolish, but it's idolatry. Let's take, for instance, some of your modern day leaders that you named, some of those that are living and dead. None of those people can do anything for me that I'm not willing to do for myself. So to put this person as an icon in my life who's going to speak something or do something that is going to directly benefit me without my effort is foolish. That's foolish.
Talut?
Yeah, you know, and in fact, the responsibility for anyone's advancement rests on that person's shoulder. Okay, we have to think in terms of, yes, we have had and we do have leaders. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting anybody.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that when it comes to the movement of the people, that takes brain power.
It does.
You can't just stand in front of people and say, go this way. And if they don't move, you say, well, they're lazy and trifling. No, you got to apply some other kind of strategy, other kind of intellect, or different approaches to cause the people to move.
Yeah.
Because naturally, people are as some animals are. Especially when I think about the cow. Yeah. You put them on a path.
Instinct.
Yes. You put them on a path. Put them on a path, they're going to stay on that path.
Well,
you're going to have to do something exceptional to get them off that path.
Well, Dr. Talut, I'm going to have to say that it is upon each individual to take care of oneself, one's loved ones, one's family. Totally agree. But I think we're talking about, like I said before, we're talking about general situations, and then we go from general situation to specific situations. I think that's what we're talking about. Now, I want to ask Velvet, Ms. Red Velvet, you were talking about the way you grew up in the midst in Alabama, and those things you mentioned, those things are called, like you said, prejudice, but that's where your stereotyping comes from.
Sure. And
that's what has happened to the Jews, that's what has happened to the African American, but for two different reasons, you see. So, you said you grew up on land, your parents owned land, and your grandfather is still living on land, and
my grandparents are still alive. My maternal grandparents are still alive. My maternal grandmother is still alive. And they live on land that has been in my family for generations. My grandmother, who is 86, her sister, she's 85, her sister is 87. They don't remember when the land was acquired to the family because their fathers had it. I think that being a people that were driven by a work ethic, that were driven to be responsible for their outcome, I think that work ethic and being accountable to self was taught to each generation. And I think that despite the outside influences that come with television, radio, peers, going away to school, living in a different city, I think that which is instilled in children go with them for the rest of their lives.
yes.
I would liken my upbringing to being raised in a village.
Okay.
There are no people that live on the streets that make up the community where I grew up that are not related by either blood or marriage. That's very rare for someone to say that.
Yeah.
So in that radius where there was 4 corners intersect, there's a county road, there's a state highway, there's a private road that was paved in my latter teens. They all connect.
Yeah.
And in that, I would say, triangle or square or whatever those 3 thoroughfares form, no one there was there that was not related either by blood or marriage. I think that made me grow up or liken my growing up or rearing to be in a village or almost like a clan or a tribe.
Yeah, it gives you a different mindset, but go ahead, finish, go ahead.
Those people in that area had a common goal.
Yeah.
They had common beliefs. They had a common culture. And it was there every day, all day, and nothing from the outside could pollute it or dilute it. Now, that's not to say that I was raised closed-minded. I was raised by people who believed that God was God and that Jesus was the Son of God. We were also encouraged to study other beliefs and other religions, because no matter what your belief or your position is in life, you cannot truly defend it or know what that is you live by if you do not understand or have a comparison to it of your fellow man.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of that, what you said, sounds good. I agree with much of it. Some of it I don't. But your story reminds me a bit of my story and many other African Americans in terms of land. Talut, we know that many African Americans, well, we went from the whole slave trade thing to being a nigger, a Negro, and color, and we've agreed on African American at this point. Later on, it may become, as we continue to evolve and make changes as we see need be fit, should be befitted. Have lost or sold. In other words, we've not, like her family, we've not valued the importance of land / freedom, free-thinking people, absent of the slave mentality. We've got about 5 minutes left. Doctor, go ahead.
Well, the point is that Red Velvet just expressed to us, rather, the value of land ownership. See, that was a trick played on the uneducated Negro. Okay, and the trick was drop your land and move to the city, where the opportunities are vast and great. And that's what our people did in the South. And the white man, the physical white man, picked the land up and is working the land right today.
That's right.
Okay, her family is exceptional. But look, I was once told the true value of land is this. You can take a plot of land, it can be 1 foot by 1 foot. Every seed you put in there will grow. And you can change from one seed to the other one, to another.
Yeah.
Okay?
In other words, you can take,
what you put in land will produce.
right. In other words, you can take a seed and do like God told Abraham. Be fruitful and multiply.
Yes, yes. So a plot of land is so valuable until it's beyond our imagination.
It's immeasurable.
Right. So which means that our economic infrastructure collapsed when we gave up the land.
Absolutely.
It collapsed. Why? Because not only you can put a seed in land and grow a product and sell it, you got minerals and other resources in the land that you probably gave away and moved to the big city and got you a $4 or $5 an hour job,
right,
thinking that you have actual progress.
But
you really set the people who have done that actually set the 40 million people back 300 years on their own. And now they're telling us, leaders, that we need to figure out how to advance our people forward after they have made a devastating mistake.
Right. Well, we're going to, at a later time, pick up leadership. Not here, not today.
Right.
But most of this happened after Reconstruction. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. We've got 2 minutes.
You said that. I think that the period of Reconstruction was nothing. That period was a great period. That was when you start seeing the emergence of true economic and political power or clout for black people. That's when your institutions of higher learning was formed. That's when black people were actually involved in politics in a real and valid way, as Republicans, by the way.
Yeah. That was the time when that took place.
It was during the 60s when a lot of clout was lost. A lot of things happened in the Great Migration North, where most families were destroyed. You went to the Great Migration North, you joined a group of people who left the country or left the rural South to go to industrialized jobs in the north. And when they got there, without any other skill, if they were not hired as a skilled laborer in one of those factories, they simply took the same jobs that they took in the South, as domestics, as chauffeurs, as service people. And with no land or with no financial clout, they simply moved into areas that were created for them and abandoned by other races and formed the ghettos, which eventually gave root to a lot of the social ills that we now see. Those social ills were probably first created in large northern urban ghettos and then spread south, came back south with the drugs and all the other things. And now you can almost see the same problems in the rural areas as you do in these other areas, because we're now all united by the internet and by TV. But I think the great migration north, then welfare, the flooding of our communities with drugs, and pseudo-integration did the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think that fits in with our equation. And yes, it was a gradual process, but it got worse going forward in terms of what we're talking about, Dr. Talut. You want to go ahead and close? We've got Super J. Want Dr. Talut to close us out. And we'll hear our... Take 30 seconds and wrap this up.
Yeah, the thing is that in order for us to advance, we first have to purge our minds of this figure of our imagination that I've been calling the imaginary white man.
He is not your problem. He's not your problem.
Yeah. See, so if we get that image out of our minds, I think we'll be able to grow and become productive, because we won't have something in our minds telling us you can't do this and you can't do that.
Okay, been a great show. Sister Red Velvet, you're going to come back next week and the week after?
I'm not sure.
You've opened up.
Depends on where I am.
You've opened up so many doors.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, you have.
Oh, the little bit I was intended.
Yeah, the little bit of you. And Dr. Talut and I, we ready for you. Come on back to the show.
I was just coming to hang out with you all at the radio. On my way to the grocery store.
Yeah.